Okay, to the left so that I can give you maybe a 50-50 view of the presenter and the slide, or a 50-60 view, whichever you prefer, but just navigate that. Okay, thank you very much. So it's great to have you around, and this is my profile. I think the same profile that was displayed in the last program. So there's no need of repeating that. And it's already in your slides, so you can consult that at any time if you want to. So thank you very much. So a little bit of the housekeeping for today. All participants will be muted throughout the duration of the program to ensure that the best audio quality for all participants. However, the host will grant us access as necessary. On joining the webinar training, please mute your mic and turn off your video. Please, please, please. That will really help us greatly. So we are recording today's webinar training, and we will share all participants. I will share with all participants a link to access the recording from this program. During the presentation, if you encounter any audio issue, please refresh your browser and check your computer's audio settings. You can also log out and log back in if you run into technical issues. Please submit your questions anytime during the webinar training using the chat box, which you can access by clicking the chat button. Then finally, use headphones, and your earpiece, which I assume that we are all doing to give you the best experience as we make progress in the program. So like I've said, the presentation slide has already been shared with you, and just enjoy it. If you have any areas you need clarification on after this program, Listing Academy, which is the entity that is running this program, you can get in touch with us at any time. And so this is the program, The Imperative of Servant Leadership in a COVID-19 Pandemic Time. You are all welcome once again as we make progress. So I want us to start off this by taking a poll on this. I wanted to start off with this by taking a poll. Please, everybody, let's take this poll quickly. So I'm launching the poll right now. So 1 minute, let's take this poll. 1 minute, please. Thanks. Okay, 15 seconds. Ten seconds. Okay, thank you very much. I'm ending the poll now. Okay, the result shows that 86% of participants in the program were managing to cope, which is not unexpected. And 14% said they are very well. So the question was, in this tumultuous time, how are you faring? 14% said they are faring very well. 0% said they are seriously struggling, which is fair enough. They're managing to cope is 86%. And really, everybody is majority of us, we are managing to cope. And not only participant, I guess this presentation will be a fair representation in terms of Nigeria, how we are doing at this particular time. And so thank you very much for your kind participation in this poll. And so we are moving straight on. Robert Greenleaf once said, the only test of leadership is that somebody follows voluntarily. And last week, we took our time to explain the difference between leadership and management. And we talk about leadership really being about influence. And so the true test of that leadership that we talked about was best captured by Robert K. Greenleaf by saying that the only test of leadership is that somebody follows voluntarily. So the goals for this program, and I think the goal for this program is to understand the concept of servant leadership. Who is the servant and who is the servant as a leader? That is the primary purpose. Another purpose is that we want to gain insight into the paradoxical and oxymoronic nature of servant leadership. We also want to explore the 16 characteristics of the servant leader, including agape love, intrinsic calling, and authenticity. And so that's what we really want to do. We will take our time to share perspective on the 16 characteristics, and that would be a great time that I'm really looking forward to. So we'll learn the applications of servant leadership in terms of what are the principles, what should we take back to our workplace, particularly at this time. So servant and leader, can these two roles be filled in one real person in all levels of status or calling? I'm asking you this question now, servant and leadership. Can these two roles be fused in one real person in all levels of status or calling? If so, can that person live and be productive in the real world of the present? My sense of the present leaders, no, my sense of the present leads me to say yes to both questions. This was what Robert K. Greenleaf said in 1970. So my question to members here is, do you agree with Robert K. Greenleaf with these two questions, servant as leader? Can these two roles be fused in one real person in all levels of status or calling? If so, can that person live and be productive in the real world of the present? And he said, my sense of the present leads me to say yes to both questions. And so that was in 1970. So today, do you agree with Robert K. Greenleaf? Please let us go to the chat window through the chat button, and let's put comments there whether we agree with Robert K. Greenleaf. Thank you very much. Let's do that. 1 minute, please. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I can see that both can be fused. So that is a great one. So that's a great one. So thank you very much. So servant leadership, to some, the phrase may seem to be an oxymoron, a contradiction in terms. To others, the phrase servant leadership presents an enticing paradox worthy of exploration. And so, what does servant leadership mean? What is servant leadership? What is it? And why is it relevant at this time? So, I will start by discussing servant leadership by taking us through what actually transpired in the 70s. The man you are seeing there is Robert K. Greenleaf. And so he was a former AT&T executive who rose and became the executive in charge of research management. And Robert K. Greenleaf was, looking at what was happening, the kind of leadership that he saw in the organizations, and within his in that also era, in the early and mid 70s. And so he was just wondering and saying, okay, what kind of leaders do we have at this time? And so as he was ruminating and, reminiscing and, really thinking about the kind of leaders that they had at that time, he now remembered a book he read, a short novel by the man you call Aman Essay, who was a Nobel Prize winner. I think that book was written in 1946, The Journey to the East. And so, according to Robert K. Greenleaf, as he was reading the short novel by Aman Essay, which is The Journey to the East, he noticed a character, and the main character in that book was Leo, and the Leo was the servant, and Leo was accompanying this gentleman, including Aman Essay himself, who was a league set. A league set is a set at that time that people like Plato, Pythagoras were also member of. And so they were embarking on this mythical journey, on a pilgrimage. And so HH, which is Aman Essay, was also part of that journey. And Leo, the main character, was a servant. Leo was the man who ensures that they eat at the right time. He was the one that ensured that if anybody is feeling bored, he has a sonorous voice, and he could sing for the birds to come out. And they found out that Leo was the person who ensures that their bags were well kept, that all the instruments that they needed for that mythical journey was kept in their bags. And whenever they have a break in the journey and they wanted to move, Leo was always ensuring that they have everything. And so Leo was most like the eyes of all the people, about 30 persons that embark on that mythical journey. And so suddenly, as they were in the course of that journey, Leo disappeared. And when Leo disappeared, Aman Essay said that the disappearance of Leo became a very harrowing experience for them, because they found out that without Leo, they couldn't proceed with that journey. They were confused. They were quarrel amongst themselves. And so they found out that Leo was actually the main person that made that journey to be very, very interesting. And so without Leo, in fact, that journey ended abruptly. And so as he was thinking about the importance and the role of Leo in that journey, he began to think about what has really transpired. And so he looked at himself and said, what is servant leadership? What kind of leadership qualities do we need to have in the servants, in leaders, in organization? And so he proceeds to state that the servant leader is a servant first. It begins with the natural feelings that one wants to serve first. Then conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. The difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant first leader to make sure that other people's highest priority needs are met, that they are served. And so the servant leader is that person who pursue leadership for the purpose of serving the people. It begins with that natural feeling as an individual that your life is a life of a steward to serve the people, whether in organization, in the society, in your family, in your community, in your country, in your state, in your local government, in the world. The purpose of a servant leader is to serve first. The conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. And so as you begin to serve, then through that process, you now emerge as a leader. But the difference manifests itself in the care taken by that servant first leader to make sure that other people's higher priority needs are served. And so that servant leader actually prioritizes the needs of the subordinates, the followers, the people, the colleagues in the office, the junior colleagues. He prioritizes their needs over and above his or our own need. That is a selfless service. And he progressed to say that, how do you test for this kind of leadership, this servant leadership? Servant as a leader. What is the test of this kind of leadership? And he said the best test is, do those you serve grow as persons? And those that you serve, do they grow as persons? Do they, while being served, while you are serving them, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? And when I mean servants, I mean more likely to become servant leaders. And so, if you put it into your leadership into a litmus test, and if your result is that those that you serve, if they grow as persons, professionally, academically, career-wise, home front, balancing, work life, home life, family life, they're able to balance that. If they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants, then you will be able to say, when you put it to test, that indeed you and I am a servant leader, or you are a servant leader. So this is the test that was given by Robert K. Greenleaf in 1970. And lest I forget, in that 1970, Robert K. Greenleaf wrote an essay, and he termed that essay "The Servant as Leader." The servant as leader. And in most business schools globally, when this program is being taught, it is always advisable that leaders in their organization should, if possible, when you have the opportunity to buy that essay, it's a little book by the what they call Robert K. Greenleaf Center for Servant Leadership. which was the book that was written, that essay that was written in 1970 that encapsulates and captures the very essence of servant leadership. You can buy it from Amazon, from anywhere, and you can give it as a gift to each of your subordinates and even your workplace colleagues, and they will really, really appreciate it. So the implications of Greenleaf's conclusion about servant leadership are important and exciting. Robert K. Greenleaf came up with a vision of a new type of leadership, a type of leadership that is philosophically elegant. Servant leadership, for me, is an elegant and a true service-oriented stewardship kind of leadership, a second to none. And yet, it's also down to health and highly practical. Servant leadership, as we make progress, you will see and observe that it is very practical. In fact, it is the most practical approach to leadership in all the models of leadership, including transactional leadership, transformational leadership, authentic leadership, and charismatic leadership, and all the other leadership approaches that I mentioned in our last program. And so, as those who have tried it know, and there are many leaders, like the wife of the US former president, Eleanor Roosevelt, the lady who, another great leader, a general, observed when Eleanor Roosevelt came to his cantonment to visit the military officers who were not feeling well. And so she went, Eleanor Roosevelt went to the clinic in the cantonment. And what touched the general was that Eleanor Roosevelt wasn't just going to the doctors or the head of the place or just those who were gravely sick to talk to them. She went from one ward to another and touched all the wards, and not only shook hands, even though right now we are practicing social distancing, with all the military men that were in that clinic, she also made sure that she had a word with the people that were there, spoke with them, show passion, show empathy, and asked them what their needs were, if they were being met, and all that. And so that was the what authentic a servant, a true servant leadership. That was what it entailed. So I told those who have tried it know, like I've said, Eleanor Roosevelt, a great example of a servant leader. And there are also many, not only him. Servant leadership works. It does work. Though not a quick fix, it is both simple to grasp and easy to begin practicing. Another great servant leader was Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. He was a great man in his time, a man who was selfless, who said, I have a dream that one day that the blacks, the whites, the blue, the black, the brown, that they will all be all the same, that people will not be judged by their colors, but they will be judged by what they have in their head. And he served the people until his last day. And he said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. And so if you can serve in any capacity, be it in your church, be it in the mosque, be it in the office, be it at home, in your community, in politics, if you can serve and serve diligently well, you'll be called a servant leader. And so servant leadership really is about service. But having explained servant leadership, it will also be just, and I think it will be fair for us to know what is the yardstick to judge, and how can we know those that are really non-servant leaders. And when we are talking about servant leadership, particularly in the workplace, particularly in this kind of time, this tumultuous time, this crisis time, this COVID-19 time, You must bring yourself to selfless service. And organizations must begin to be servant-oriented organizations. Organizations that see beyond the mind. Organizations that begin to see individuals as persons, not as numbers. Individuals, employees as people who have people at home who have individual needs and who we want to continue meeting those needs even at this time. And so in taking critical decisions like relieving employees, rationalizing, downsizing, right-sizing, whatever names and disguise it is called, this is the time for organizations to begin to see themselves as their organizations as organizations that are there to serve the people and the larger community and society in which they operate. And so the non-servant leader is leader first. The intention of that leader is to lead, and service is secondary. If they have the opportunity, they serve. If they have not grabbed everything they need to grab, service is secondary. Their main purpose, their primary purpose, they are self-centered. They want to grab. They want power. They want to oppress. They want to be the one to talk. They don't want to listen. They don't want to hear feedback. Their role is to just begin to ride on, to acquire power and exercise power mightily. And so it begins with the desire and the need to assuage an unusual power, drive, or to acquire material possessions. For such a leader, it will be a later choice to serve. I've said his primary reason is not to serve the people. It's not to be humble, to humility, to be accountable. One of the characteristics of a servant leader is what we call authenticity. And so embedded in authenticity is humility, accountability. And so the role of that leader is not to be accountable. You dare not speak when they speak. You dare not question them. When they talk, it is final. They are autocratic. They are despots. And so for such leaders, it will be a later choice to serve after leadership is established. And if you look at a lot of leaders in Africa, their intention is not to serve. In Nigeria, a lot of our leaders, even though many of them profess, some of them call themselves the chief servant leader, and some of them say the unexpected servant leader. Some of them call themselves accidental servant leader. And so whichever name they call themselves, a lot of them, they want to grab. A few days ago, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday, I still heard that the Abacha loot was still coming. They're being repatriated by foreign leaders. Imagine how many years we've been hearing of the return of Abacha loot. And so the stealing is in such a way that even their fifth and sixth generations cannot finish what they've stolen. And so how do you describe those kind of leaders as servant when their primary purpose is to grab? And so those are the kind of leaders we have. And so a true servant, and so let's look at what is the difference between the servant leader and a non-servant leader. What differentiates a leader who is servant-oriented and the one who is self-centered? And so the leader first and the servant first are two extreme types. They are two extremes. Between them, there are shadings, and blends that are part of the infinite variety of human nature. The difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant first leader to make sure that other people, subordinates, followers, colleagues, those in the community, those that are experiencing challenge, that they have or they take precedence. They are given priority in terms of their needs when they need to be taken care of. And so the way I ask it in your little way is, you might not be Nigeria as a country. You might not be Dangote. You might not be Otedola. You might not be Tony Elumelu, but in your little way, if you can't donate, if you can't contribute, if you can't, set up a food bank during this time, how have you been able, in your little way, extend palliative to your loved ones? How have you been able, in your little way? Nothing is too small, nothing is too big. And so that is servant leadership, selfless service in its little way. How have you been able to ask people? How have you been able to speak with your colleagues? This challenging time. Some of our colleagues, like I said last week, they've lost loved ones. They have people who are maybe in the isolation center, who have been quarantined, who are passing through stress, anxiety. Some of them, they've been infected with the COVID-19 virus. How are you reaching out? How are you reaching out to them? What kind of empathy are you showing? Those are the questions. And so the true difference between a servant leader and a non-servant leader is really manifests itself in the care that you show. So what care? Remember, servanthood is about being care. Having care, for the people who you serve. Do you even see yourself as a servant? Do you see yourself as a servant? And so we are going to proceed to look at some of the characteristics. We want to really make sure that today we have a reasonable time for questions. And lest I forget, we want to have at least 30 minutes or 40 minutes for questions. And participants can please ask questions from this program, from previous programs. And once you raise your hand, we will be able to unmute you to ask your questions. And so we're going to look at some of the characteristics that servant leaders should imbibe, should exude at this time. And so the first set of leadership skill, servant leadership qualities that you need to possess is the first one is listening. The second is altruistic calling. The third is caring for others. The fourth is agapao love. The fifth is empathy. The sixth, emotional healing. Seventh, awareness. 8, stewardship. 9, behaving ethically. 10, empowering others. 11, persuasion. 12, conceptualization. 13, foresight. 15, commitment to the growth of people, developing others. Building community and authenticity. These are the 16 characteristics that a servant leader should possess. And so, because of the time frame, we won't be able to exhaustively discuss the 16 characteristics. But I'm going to share perspective on quite a number of them. And with that, I guess we'll take back to our individual workplace, to our individual home, and see how we can become better leaders and indeed better servant leaders. And so let's start by listening. Let's start by listening. Listening is quite different from merely hearing. There was, I attended a training, a kind of what they call a forum, a risk management forum in 2013 at Ashford, Kent in the UK. And there was this great speaker called Rene Cairo. He's a great speaker, an excellent speaker. And Rene was describing one of the greatest listeners that he has ever met in life. And he said that he was anchoring this seminar. And he wanted Bill Clinton, to speak. And he has this video conferencing session. And so, Ben Clinton was in the US and Rene Carrero was in the UK. And behold, Clinton came up in the video and said, Rene, how you doing? Rene said, I'm fine. And so Clinton started talking. And there was this lady that was struggling. The lady was struggling, raising up her hand frantically, wanted to ask questions. But Rene didn't want to give the mic to the lady. And the lady went to one of the ushers and grabbed the mic. And Rene was surprised. Rene couldn't understand what the lady was saying. The lady, Rene couldn't understand what the lady was saying. And so the lady was still holding the mic. And Rene looked at the usher and said, take the mic, cut the mic from the lady. And they cut the mic. But Clinton, right on the video conferencing, said, Rene, I heard what the lady was saying. And I heard that very well. The lady was saying X, Y, Z. Clinton went ahead to describe, to address what the lady was saying. And Rene was so shocked because he couldn't even hear what the lady was saying. And so, great servant leaders, they are great listeners. And so hearing is passive. We hear without intention. We hear sirens, dog barking, and children playing. In fact, we even hear while sleeping. Samuel in the Bible heard the call while he was sleeping. So hearing is that passive. In contrast, listening is active. Listening requires a commitment. It's intentional, a conscious commitment to listen, to hear others. So the servant leader listens to identify the will of a person or the group, to understand the will of the subordinates, so as to make effective decisions, decisions that will be followed upon by voluntary and creative action. How well do you listen in your leadership? Do you take care to make sure that everyone is heard from? Do you ask questions to get other people's ideas? Do you summarize and refer back what you have heard people say? Or do you listen to respond? What I found out is that a lot of us, we are too quick, we are too eager to respond. And so we listen with the intention of responding, not to understand what the person is saying. And so, listening requires a commitment. Listening is intentional. The servant leader listens to identify the will of a person or the group so as to make effective decisions, decisions that will be followed upon by voluntary and creative action. Listening also encompasses getting in touch with one's own inner voice and seeking to understand what one's body, spirit, and mind are communicating. Listening, coupled with regular period of reflection, self-reflection, are essential to the growth of the servant leadership, of the servant leader. The second, empathy. One of the things I found out about empathy is that it cut across almost all leadership models and emotional intelligence skill. One of the greatest skills of what you would call social awareness in the Daniel Goldman's competency, EI, emotional intelligence competency model is empathy. Empathy is not the same as sympathy. A leader who is empathetic not only feels and expresses concerns for others, which is sympathy, but actually identifies the concerns of others so as to better understand and lead. Like I've said, empathy cuts across all leadership behaviors. A transformational leader must be a leader who is empathetic. Without empathy, you cannot be a transformational leader. But authenticity itself also, being authentic, is your ability to empathize. See from the perspective of your subordinate, of the other person. Sometimes put yourself in the shoes of others. That is empathy. All people need to be accepted and recognized for their special talents and unique spirit. People want to feel be recognized in the workplace. How do you treat people in the workplace? Knowing this, the servant leader assumes the good intention of colleagues and subordinates and accept them all as people of value and worth, even when the servant leader, for the good of the organization, cannot accept certain behaviors or levels of performance. And so even where you have concerns with the level of performance of your subordinates, you must treat them with dignity. That is very essential. People fail. Subordinates will fail. In life, some of the great leaders, they've fallen. Some of them, they were in prison for years. Nelson Mandela was in prison for years. But that didn't change him. It didn't change him at all. Servant leaders do fail. Servant leaders, they do fail. But by exercising empathy, the servant leader can help others to see the origins and consequences of their actions in a productive way, a way that has promise for the future. Every follower want to follow a leader that has vision, leader that feel about you, that have concerns for your needs. Empathy. Servant leaders also affirm that which is in everyone is good, not only when your subordinates do things that are not good in your sight. Do you heap praises? The servant leader knows and celebrates that we are all in this together and that we are all trying to do our best. Do you, as you lead, consciously and consistently recognize the effort of your colleagues and subordinates? Do you feel you understand what they put into their work, what their frustrations are, what their needs are? At the same time, do your colleagues and subordinates feel they can experiment with their jobs? Try something new. Do they feel that they can safely admit to and learn from their mistakes and not out of fear feel the need to attempt to cover up mistakes? How do you behave in the office? Will your subordinate dare come and tell you that I did this thing wrongly, I got it wrong, I made a mistake? Would heads get let loose? Would the sky fall down because your colleague, they made mistakes? You know, for that matter, do you as a leader admit to your own mistakes? Are you open to constructive criticism yourself? Finally, remember that the practice of empathy is neither patronizing nor condescending. It does not suggest a lowering of standard or expectation. Instead, it's a characteristics of a leader who is truly a servant leader. It is a strength, not a weakness at all. So let's move on. Emotional healing. This characteristic is especially important when it comes to the working relationship. You know, some people will say, please don't bring emotions into this. Keep your emotions at home. We are here to do the job, and the job we will definitely do. Greenleaf defines healing as as to make whole. The servant leader recognizes the shared human desire to find wholeness in oneself and support it in others. How do you support other people? The healing of relationship is a powerful force for transformation and integration. One of the great strengths of servant leadership is the potential for healing oneself and one's relationship with others. Many people have broken spirits and have suffered some variety of emotional hurts. Although this is part of being human, servant leaders recognize that they have an opportunity to help make whole those with whom they come in contact. In the servant as a leader, that essay that was written in 1970 by Robert Greenleaf, there's something subtle communicated to one who is being served and is led. If implicit in the compact between servant leader and the led is the understanding that the search for wholeness is something they share. Emotional healing, that we are in this together, a camaraderie that you normally found in the force, particularly military. Stewardship. For me, stewardship is what servant leadership is all about. Stewardship is holding something in trust for another. Stewardship is the willingness to take responsibility for the larger institution and to go for the service instead of control and self-interest. Leaders should act not only as caretakers, but also as a role model for others. By setting the right examples, leaders can stimulate others to act in the common interest. Stewardship is closely related to social responsibility, loyalty, and teamwork. The ability to live and let others live. The ability to think about the larger society, social responsibility. Think about the environment, the community. Organizational stewards in trustees are concerned not only for the individual subordinate within the organization, but also the organization as a whole, and its impact and relationship with the larger society. Empowering others. This is a critical one. Empowerment is entrusting power to others. And for the servant leader, it involves effective listening, making people feel significant, making them feel good, putting an emphasis on teamwork and valuing of love and equality. You know, sometimes people say, don't bring love to the workplace. Steve Covey believed that the leader serves as a role model for empowering others and for valuing their differences. Ben Abbas posits that empowerment is power sharing with subordinates in planning and decision making. Some people say that, oh, what has love got to do with it in the workplace? We're going to look at another characteristic very soon, but agapao love. And we're going to know why love should actually be in the workplace. And what kind of love do we talk about when we're talking about love in the workplace? Empowerment aims at fostering a proactive, self-confident attitude among subordinates. For me, when you empower your subordinates to lead, when you empower your subordinates to grow, when you equip them, when you showcase them, it means that you are confident in yourself, in your shell. Some leaders are not even confident. When they see their subordinate exploring and excelling, they are afraid. Oh, he's going to outshine me. No, you should be glad that your subordinates are doing well. And people will begin to say, wow, of a truth, you are a leader. Because you cannot be a leader without growing people, without building people. Empowerment aims at fostering a proactive, self-confident attitude among subordinates and colleagues and give them a sense of power, of personal power. It shows that one values people and encourages their personal development. In the power of servant leadership, Greenleaf's right, the servant leaders believe in the intrinsic value of each individual. It's a central issue. It is all about recognition, acknowledgement, and the realistic, when you realize the abilities and what the person can still learn, what your subordinate can bring to the table. And sometimes we've don't realize the knowledge, the capacity that our subordinate can bring. And so a lot of time we always believe that we know all, we are the be-all in the organization. And we believe that positional leadership is the same as leadership. No, it is not. We must know that. And so let's go to agape love. Servant leadership is based on love. But some may ask, what does this love look like? Or even ask about the appropriateness of love in the organizational setting. Servant leaders see the subordinates and colleagues as hired hearts instead of hired hands. This admonition is born out of the agape love. Agape love is a moral love, meaning that the leader should do the right thing at the right time and for the right reasons. Agape love causes leaders to consider each person not simply as a means to an end, but as a complete person, one with needs, wants, and desire. And remember when we were talking about transformational leadership, specifically individualized consideration, we said you must treat your subordinate, each of them as individuals, with individual needs. And you must not call Taiwo and begin to say, Taiwo, oh, when Robert was here, Robert used to do this. No, Robert and Taiwo are not the same. So you must treat them individually. So that is agape law. Servant leaders will agape law follow, not the golden rule, but the platinum rule. Do unto others as they want you to do unto them, not do unto others as you want them to do unto you, which is the golden rule. This is the platinum rule. Do unto others as they would want you to do unto them. Agape love is the cornerstone of the servant-subordinate relationship, fostering a deep connection between leaders and subordinate. A connection that is not only deep, but also very strong. Altruistic calling. Servant leadership is about calling. And who is the greatest in terms of calling than Jesus Christ? And so, one of the greatest demonstrator, the greatest example of servant leadership was Jesus. And for those who are Christians, we understand that the day before he was crucified, in the upper room, he gathered his disciples. He sat down and he found out that the disciples are used to wash the feet of the disciples, which is Judas Iscariot was missing. And Jesus removed his garments and was left with his robe and what was tied. He took the bath, the basin, and put water and brought it. And one after the other, he washed the feet of his disciples. What a missed opportunity the disciples had. Imagine if I was there, that I was privileged. I would have said, Master, like Peter said, don't wash my feet. Don't wash my feet, Master. Wash my hands instead. My feet are too dirty for you to wash, Master. He would have preferred that Jesus washed his hands. But Jesus did not only wash their feet, and he told them that these I have done unto you, but that you, the disciples, should also do it to themselves and to others. And so it demonstrated what a servant is. First, that a leader, even though he was the master, but he demonstrated by washing their feet that indeed he was a true servant. A servant of not only the people, but the disciples. So servant leadership principles provide the foundation for altruism. Defined as the constructive and gratifying service to others, altruistic calling describes a leader's deep-rooted desire to make a positive difference in others' lives. A leader who is high in altruistic calling will put others' interests ahead of their own and will diligently work to meet subordinates' needs. Such selflessness can be translated into an attitude of humble service because the ultimate goal is to serve. Altruistic calling is at the heart of servant leadership. Altruism is helping others selflessly just for the sake of helping. No intention for any reward, which involves personal sacrifice, although there is no personal gain. Servant leadership is selfless. Robert Greenleaf explains that the motivation of leaders must begin with the conscious choice to serve others, not to gain anything. Commitment to the growth of people. This is another great one. Developing others. Servant leaders believe that people have an intrinsic value beyond their tangible contributions as employees. As such, the servant leader is deeply committed to the growth of each and every individual within his or organization. In this COVID-19 time, are you committed to the development of your people? Do you see this tumultuous time, this crisis, as an opportunity for your people not to learn anymore? Do you see this time as just a time to say, okay, thank God, they're not going to learn anymore, but a time to continue to seek and pursue the development of your people? The servant leader recognizes the tremendous responsibility to do everything within his or her power to nurture the personal, professional, and spiritual growth of his subordinate. In practice, this can include, but not limited to, concrete actions such as making funds available for personal and professional development, taking a personal interest in the ideas and suggestions from everyone, encouraging subordinates' involvement in decision-making, and actively assisting laid-off employees to find other employment. You have subordinates who have been laid off at this time. Do you reach out to them? Do you call them? Do you try to speak with them? Robert Greenleaf once said, the secret of institution building is to be able to weld a team of such people by lifting them up to grow taller than they would otherwise be. Caring for others. This is a leader's genuine concern for people. In an organizational setting, it is so much about a leader's relationship with his or her subordinates and other colleagues. It is about a leader's genuinely caring for the welfare of people working with him or her. Caring leaders are notable for their caring approach and appreciation of subordinates, as well as the services of others. And so leadership for me is not caring, servant leadership really is not about carrying people on your back, but carrying people in your heart. Do you carry your subordinates in your heart? What are the basic principles of servant leadership? Remember, I told you we won't have enough time to go through all the characteristics. But the basic principles of servant leadership, they are critical. So listen more than you talk. Talk less. Make the habit of asking your subordinates what they need. Set aside time for foresight and planning, even in a COVID-19 time. Don't be scattered. Be coordinated. Be put together. Focus on helping people to grow. Sit down with subordinates and develop individual plans, even at this time. And that sit down with subordinates and develop individual plans that will help them to get the experience, training, or education that they would need to excel in the workplace, even at this time. Application of servant leadership. How do you apply servant leadership? Not abuse of authority. A servant leader will not abuse authority, but it view yourself, a servant leader, as a servant of all. Particularly, I've witnessed a few leaders who, even though they are very senior in organizations, who are supposed to see the organization as a whole, as their constituency, they still think small. They think small. They say, oh, I'm the ED of this. I'm going to take care of this, my units, my division. They begin to do a they versus us rather than the constituency, the organization as their constituency. They still think small, microscopic, rather than macro. Seeing the organization as one. See all subordinates, whether in another division, as those that I can touch their life, as those who can seek my knowledge. My team first. My team first. You dare not talk about their teams. They will fight you in the sense negatively. So a servant leader shouldn't be a dictator, but a partner in the process of decision making. Not deplorable delegation. They don't delegate in a deplorable manner, but give people room and freedom to do their job and grow. Not lack of listening as a leader who never wants to get feedback, but take a posture of not considering yourself as the most important, but actually considers others more important than yourself. A servant leader seems not controlling, but letting go with affirmation as you help others. You shouldn't be egocentric as a servant leader, but work every day to empower others. A servant leader should not use coercive power and force, but use influence to motivate and inspire. The impact of servant leadership in the workplace. Research has shown that servant leadership positively impacts workplace in a number of ways. One, servant leaders excel at building and facilitating teams. Research have also shown that servant leaders create work environment that encourage people to pitch in and help out. Employees who are led by servant leaders have enhanced job performance, greater commitment, and greater job satisfaction. Employees led by servant leaders are more creative because they have greater trust in their leaders. Servant leadership is found to be positively related to organizational performance. The future of servant leadership. What future does servant leadership as a model, as a philosophy, what future does it hold for us as people, as employees? There are many factors, but in the end, the future may be promising because new generations want to work for servant leaders. A lot of younger employees want more than the traditional ideas of success. They want to work for organizations committed to making a difference in the lives of people. People want to work for organizations that are ethical, practical, and that provide employees with meaningful work. People want to work for an organization that is committed to servant leadership. That is the future of servant leadership. And so, as we begin to wrap up this session today, as we begin to come to the end, there are 6 actionable commitments that I want from those who are participating in this program. And if you have been inspired by all that I've been saying to become a servant leader, there are 6 actionable commitments I want you to take from here and put to practice from today. I was touched last week when after the Authentic Leadership Program, when somebody told me the immediate impact of the Authentic Leadership Program that we had on the 29th of April. I was deeply touched. It wasn't in the workplace, but right there at home. And that is the essence. If everything we'll be saying for this 1 month, particularly in this COVID-19 time, does not spur action, then it makes no sense. And so these are the 6 actionable items. Avoid being defensive when you are confronted as a leader. When criticized as a leader, focus on the message, not the messenger. Practice what you preach. Give others the right to question your actions and decisions. I've seen more often in the workplace, when leaders speak, they have spoken. Nobody else should say anything. We have spoken. We have taken decision as executive committee, as ESCO, as the board. Who are you? Even when the decision is wrong. Even when the decisions were taken did not take into consideration certain variables, which are material to that decision. They say, no, we have spoken. At this time, we want to rationalize. We want to sack people. We want to lay off. We want to do whatever. We want to cut salary. There's no need to hear what the employees have to say. We are going ahead. Remember, these people, they are human beings. They are persons. They are people. They are not numbers. They have family. They have livelihood. And so be willing to say I was wrong to other people. Very critical. Let others take control of situation when appropriate. A leader should be comfortable for your subordinates sometimes to lead. When you go for meetings, give them opportunity. Let them represent the kind of leader that you have taught them to be. Let them shine. At the time, I was touched when one of the organizations where I worked, one of my colleagues said, oh, McLeish, if every leader in this organization is like you, what a great place this organization has been. And he was saying that because, like I said last week, when I join any team as a leader, I tell my colleagues, if I'm leaving this organization and the organization have to go elsewhere to bring somebody to replace me, we have failed together. I have failed, you have failed. And so everything that I work towards in that organization from the very day I joined as a leader is to bequeath everything I have in my brain to my subordinates. I want them to have what I have. For me, I believe it's a common good. If what you have does not deprive me from what I have, if I share what I have with you, if it doesn't take mine from me, what a world we will live in. You know, in a local parlance, they say the tree cannot make a forest. And so if you have a lot of billionaires in a country, then what a great country we would have. It's better to have many billionaires and trillionaires than have just one or two, because they will have a lot to give. Avoid being defensive when confronted. Very key. Be willing to say I was wrong to other people. As I bring this session to its finality, the vision of this program and our aim in this COVID-19 leadership series, we started from emotional intelligence to transformational leadership, to authentic leadership, and now to servant leadership. Like that vision that was nursed in 1970 by Robert K. Greenleaf. The vision we have for this program was that servant leaders will transform their organizations into institutions that would not only offer creative opportunities, but that they would also create a more just and caring society. A society where agape love prevails, where employees and subordinates have a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. And so at this juncture, I will say thank you for your time. Thank you for those who have taken their time to have participated in all 4 sessions that we've had. I will say thank you. And so, like I will always say, this has been made possible by Lichting Consulting and Board God Limited. And we train as Lichting Academy. We'll say thank you very much. And so we will go right now to take another short poll. But before we do that, we'll come to that. Before we do that, if you are interested in exploring servant leadership and learning more, these are great books. These are great books you can, I've recommended for you. The first one is The Servant as Leader. This was the essay that was released in 1970 by Robert K. Greenleaf. And where he said, a servant leader is the person who pursues servant first, to serve first. And it's only conscious effort as he serves that he becomes a leader. And so there are other books that I've recommended here. And this one are some of the books also that are in my library here in Lagos. You can see The Power of Servant Leadership by Robert K. Greenleaf. So the Servant Leadership, A Journey into the Nature of Legitimate Power of Greatness by Robert Greenleaf. Excuse me. And The Servant as a Leader, which is also the book, the essay that I told you about, is the first in the servant leadership books that I have to buy because it was very important. I need to understand it from the very beginning. Last week, I talked about authentic leadership. You can see the book there, Authentic Leadership, rediscovering, the secret to a lasting value by Bill George, the person who brought about the practical approach to authenticity. And so, at this time, I will say let's proceed to take the poll. So let's proceed. But before we go to that poll, there's something I want to share. So you can also post your questions, please. And let the presentation be in presenter's view, please. So you can post your questions in the chat window. You can post your questions in the chat window. It can be questions from emotional intelligence program that we did. It can be from transformational leadership. It can be from authentic leadership. And it can also be from this servant leadership.
Sorry to come in at this moment. If anyone has challenges using the keyboard, typing could take longer time than speaking. So if anyone prefers to speak or share experience, the person can raise his hand so we can unmute the person and the person can be given audience to talk. I think that would be an alternative to send questions through the chat.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Ilo, is there questions you need me to address?
Okay, well, somebody has a question. Yemi has a question. So, Yemi, I'm unmuting you so you can ask the question. Hello, Yemi. You can go ahead. Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Marklesh.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, my own question is, it's on one of the ones we've handled previously. That's one of the topics we've handled. When you have you have some set of values that you also there.
Yes.
But then you are faced with pressure at work to do otherwise. How can you manage that kind of environment? Because your own concern is, especially in our environment here where there are no buffers, social buffers, when you are punished for doing the right thing. So how can somebody handle those kind of issues at work? I don't know whether you got my question.
Yes, I got it very, very clearly. Very clearly. Thank you very much, Mr. Yemi, for your very insightful question. What in my experience, what I've found is that whether you're talking about organizational values or personal values, that a lot of persons more often chickened out when they put their value to test. Remember what I said last week when we were talking about authentic leadership?
Yeah.
That your values is almost like your life, as people should know. It's like when you are a Christian or you are a Muslim, one of the ways you can demonstrate Christianity or Islam is when people know that what you stand for. And so a lot of us, most times, right, people don't know where we stand or what we stand for. And so it's easy for people to come and believe that we're going to fall. So even though we understand, particularly in very corrosive environments, that a lot of things will be thrown at us, but it is very, very critical that our values are clear. And people, whether subordinate, they are very clear in terms of the value that we cherish, that we hold dearly. It is very important. But where it becomes very tempting and very corrosive I will always say that if you are in an organization that is not value driven, then you can begin to plan your exit strategy. I will always encourage people that, look, you have people, they come into an organization, within the first month, they say, oh, what am I doing here? No, this is not a fit for me. They begin to plan. But that's why I always advise people also is that equip yourself, pursue, and so that you will overcome. Because when you equip yourself, it becomes like the employer's market. You have what they call power. Your employer begins to know that if I lose Mr. Yemi, it's going to be a great loss. But if they know that they can throw you like a piece of rubbish, then they will throw everything at you. And that is why I'm always very, very bullish at self-development. Develop yourself, equip yourself, train yourself, and hold those values dear. A lot of times is when you hold those, if you're able to equip yourself, that you can begin to take those decisions. But don't forget, don't take irrational decisions. Don't experience amygdala hijack. Somebody just offends you or you devalue, you just say, drop your resignation letter. No, you must think it through and plan and plan and plan. That is what I would say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for, if there's anything you can add to that, I would really appreciate that.
It's okay.
So any other question? Any other person? If you just indicate by a raise of hands. So in the chat, Mr. Ilo, are there questions?
No, none yet.
Okay, so maybe we will proceed to take the next poll, right? Is that fine?
That's fine.
Okay.
If anybody has any question while we are taking the poll, the person can still send it across or raise hands.
Okay, so at this time, we are going to share another poll, which is about how insightful was this program. We just want to have feedback because, like I said, there's no way you can improve without feedback. So we want to use the next 1 minute. I think we have 2 minutes left just to launch this side. So let's use 1 minute to launch this poll. And so please just give us your honest feedback, how insightful this program has been. So I'm proceeding to end the slide, to end the poll right now. I'm proceeding to end the poll. Okay, so I'm sharing the poll with you now. And so how insightful was the program? 75% of participants said very insightful. 25% said insightful. And 0% said not insightful. And so I will say thank you very much. So I will say thank you very much. I want to stop sharing now. I'll say thank you very much. And let me use the last 1 minute to...
Sorry, there's a question from Sunday Oyekale. He said, how can a second level leader in an organization make an impact as a servant leader? How can a second level leader in an organization make an impact as a servant leader? Then there's another one. I think I should give you both of them. The second one is from Prestige. He said, with stuff like this, the workplace will be better managed. From Azoka. Okay, that's a compliment.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Ilo, this we are already out, so I'm using the last 30 seconds just to answer that question. And
yes.
we will call it a wrap and a day. And so, thank you very much, Mr. Sunday Oyekale. I would say that what I believe is that a lot of us, even if we are middle managers, we are second level managers, we are any kind of managers, that we are all leaders. We have subordinates, we have one person, we have two people, we have a little group reporting to us. We can influence people within those little groups. So in life, there are things that are within your control. So if you have one person reporting to you, that is within your control. And so you must begin to influence from that level and be a servant leader to that person. And so the test is, does that one person who reports to you, does that person see you as a servant leader? Do you display those characteristics? Do you show empathy, right? Do you show altruistic calling, agape love? Do you empower that person? And so those are the characteristics that when you exhibit and display them, that one person, because a leader is that person that influences, even if it is one person. And so I would say that in your little area of influence, your sphere of influence, practice servant leadership. And leaders up there might see it and say, wow, this is truly a servant in this organization. And like I've said, if we are listing, and this is we will say thank you for coming. We are displaying our details. Listing Consulting and BoardGov Limited is the name of the company. We train, our academy is Listing Academy. Our email, they are there. The phone, they are there. And we are on social media. And please, lest I forget, the programs we did on 15th of April, 22nd of April, 29th of April, they are all on our YouTube channel as of today. And this one, by next week, will also be on our YouTube channel, Listing Academy. Look for Listing Academy on our YouTube channel, and you're going to be able to watch all these recordings. The video clips are there, and the complete recording from each of these programs, they are there. And don't forget, I will always say, God bless you, stay safe, stay blessed, and God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.